What is up guys, Niko here and welcome back to another video here on the channel. And for today, I'm going to talk about the Sony FX6. Alright, so first of all, before we get to the camera, I'd like to thank Solid Video Corporation who lent me this camera for a couple of days to be able to test it. And Solid Video Corporation is the accredited distributor of professional Sony equipment here in the Philippines. So for your professional broadcasting needs or integrated solutions for your broadcasting events, please do check them out. I will put the link in the description. Having said that, this is in no way a sponsored video. Everything that I'm going to say here are my thoughts alone. Alright, so to start, the Sony FX6 is a camera from the cinema line of Sony, and the Sony FX6 has a full frame 4K 10.2 megapixels backside illuminated CMOS sensor, just like the A7s III, which I'm using to film right now. Now, it has the same frame rates as the A7s III. It can go up to 120p in 4K and 240p in 1080p. Now, when it comes to the codecs, that's where it differs. In the A7s III, you have the XAVC-HS, XAVC-S, XAVC-SI, which uses the MP4 wrapper, while the FX6 uses the XAVC-L and XAVC-I and uses the MXF wrapper, which is, a more professional type of codec. Now, of course, if you want a higher quality, let's say raw output, this is capable of doing that using the SDI out of the camera at the back. Now for the battery, the A7s III uses the NPF Z100, which is used in the newer full frame cameras of the Sony Alpha line, while the FX6 uses the BPU type batteries seen more on more professional cameras of Sony. Now when it comes to ISO, the FX6 again shares the same ISO capabilities with the A7s III, as it has dual gain ISO at 800 and 12,800. But unlike the A7s III, in this body you will see that it acknowledges that it has a dual gain sensitivity. Now, one thing that the FX6 has that the A7s III doesn't have is the ability to control noise suppression or noise reduction. Because in the A7s III, when you go to the second ISO level in S-Log3, which is 12,800, yes, the images clean up, but it also applies, digital noise reduction to your image. Now, if you are, a professional and you need control over that noise reduction, then the FX6 has that ability to control how much noise reduction you can apply in camera to your image. Now, when it comes to the ergonomics of the FX6, it's one thing that I enjoyed while using. If you are a video shooter and you're shooting on the photo or stills camera type bodies of Sony, you probably have bought a cage like what I did, but my cage is still not here, but I ordered already because it's more natural to shoot video that way. Here in the FX6, of course, since this is a video camera, a proper video camera, you have all these handles. You have the side handle, you've got the top handle, which has the controls. You have a record button, you could actually control the menu from the top handle and the side handle. You have, zooming controls, both on the top and on the side handle. Plus, this side handle could be adjusted like this or like this, you know, depending on what angle you need, you know, which I wish I could have in my A7S III. I'll figure that out, how to rig my A7S III to have, you know, this type of ergonomics so that I could hold my camera like this if I need to, or, you know, like this if I needed to. So ergonomics wise, obviously, this has the better ergonomics if you are a video shooter, especially if you are in professional settings, you know, like movie sets, music videos, commercials. This is the way to go. Now, when it comes to the autofocus of the FX6, it is not that far from the A7S III. They are both pretty fast, although if I am going to, you know, do it frame by frame, I think the FX6 is a little bit faster than the A7S III, but you know, at this point, at the speed that the autofocus are in cameras right now, I think this is just nitpicking, and they pretty much perform the same way. However, one feature of the Sony FX6 that I don't think the A7S III has is the ability to have a face-only focus. So what this means is if there is a face, it detects an eye in the frame, it focuses on that. But once that face goes out of frame, it doesn't rack focus to the objects behind it or the scene behind it unless there is a face that pops out of, you know, that scene. So pretty good feature if you would need it. And, you know, I'd like to see this also on the A7S III, probably through a firmware update if that's possible. Now, probably my favorite feature of the Sony FX6 is the variable ND. I use a variable ND filter in my A7S III to control the light, especially when using 12,800 ISO, because, you know, if you are a A7S III user, you know that when you use ISO at the 8,000 range or the 10,000 range, the image just becomes so grainy, so noisy that you would want to bump the ISO up to 12,800 and just apply an ND filter to, you know, control the light that's coming in. Now in the FX6, this has a electronic variable ND filter. So you don't have to slap on an ND filter to your lens. It's in camera. And what's amazing about that is it has an auto feature, which I will show you in another video. I will show you how that works. But basically, if you have it on auto electronic variable ND filter, you could set all other settings constant. For example, your shutter angle, your aperture, your ISO will be set in a constant setting, but you can still tell it to have an auto exposure level, let's say at 1.5 or at 1, and the variable ND filter is the one that will adjust itself to control the light to still maintain your auto exposure level. So again, please do check out my video on the electronic variable ND filter of the Sony FX6. If it's already uploaded, you can find it here. But, you know, one drawback of having an electronic variable ND filter is you don't have IBIS here in this camera. However, I think for the people who would want to buy this, electronic variable ND filter will be more important than IBIS, especially as this camera is a bit heavy. So I think the weight and gravity could eliminate some of those micro jitters that the IBIS is supposedly, you know, made to correct. So that is, you know, the FX6 specs. So for me, I really enjoyed using the camera, but question now is it for me? Will I get one? And my answer is, as of this moment, it's a no. Number one, because I don't really go that much on professional shoots like movies or music video shoots or professional commercial shoots. So my purpose of buying a camera is always two reasons. Number one is so that I could have a camera shooting our YouTube videos with the option, of course, of doing professional work. And the A7S III is, I think, capable of doing that. And number two, bringing this on family trips, documenting family events, which I think if you are going on trips and traveling, this is a pretty big camera to bring. It's also heavy, although compared to other cinema cameras of Sony, this is light. But if you are going to, travel on, leisurely with your family, I think this is not that easy to bring. So for my purposes, I think I'm more suited with the A7S III, which has a stills type of body. But if you are a professional videographer that you use your camera more in a professional setting, the FX6 is a perfect camera for you. And I mean, it's smaller than the FX9 or the other traditional cinema cameras with the specs of more modern video cameras like the A7S III. So that is it for this video. Please, I'd appreciate if you like this video, please hit that like button. Also, subscribe to my channel, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon to get notified if I upload new videos here on the channel. Also, like me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!